I was going to say that's another interesting one about, again, we're looking at the pressures of society, measures of success, this kind of stuff. And again, what type of career or what type of job you have is also a lot of pressure as to what's deemed as successful in society. So for example, if you're a lawyer or a doctor, like fair enough, you would have to go to school for a long time and they are very respected careers. However, and these individuals are looked at as more successful than let's say somebody that is a bartender, you know?
Yeah.
People
or somebody like in the trades, somebody, you know, a carpenter or a mechanic, which are very important jobs. But then we don't look at those jobs. For some reason, we don't look at those jobs as successful.
Exactly.
You know
we
what
look
I mean?
at them more. We would look at a lawyer as someone being more successful, and we'd say, "Oh, that's amazing," you know, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And when your kids are growing up, you're like, "Oh, you should try to be a lochter."
A lochter? What's a lochter, Daniel?
A lawyer.
Would you like to be
doctor.
a lochter?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. A lawyer / doctor.
Okay,
A lochter.
A lochter. That just came out very weird. But you do.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, you do want your kids. You're like, you say to your kids, look, you know, you should go to school to try to be a lawyer, a doctor, this kind of stuff. And like a lot of other things, you never like, oh, you should become a bartender. But like, you know what? If somebody works as a bartender and they really enjoy it and they love doing that job and they're very passionate about it, what's wrong with that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like if they're
there's nothing wrong
happy
with
and
that.
stuff, we shouldn't as a society look down on that person and say, oh, you know, why aren't you doing something else with your life?
And how important is that job, Daniel? Especially for us.
It is you are doing society a very important service. Okay. Me and Rose will be frequent customers.
No, but in all seriousness, I thought about this and like imagine if like, you know, so many jobs that are deemed as like successful and like super important and high ranking. I think about it and I'm like, how important are these jobs really? Because all of these like CEOs and high ranking people, you know, like don't get me wrong, like, you know, still respect. I have respect for these people that are, you know, working hard and doing all that. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, world crumbles down. Let's say, you know, we're kind of like down to our, you know, just our bodies and whatever. Like what's more important? Yeah, like doctors would be important for sure, of course. Would a lawyer be important in that situation? Not necessarily. What else would be important? Like somebody like a mechanic would be important, you know, to fix things. You know what I mean? Like certain jobs, I'm like, these are like very important jobs. We just don't think that they're really that important. So you know, and like somebody that can fix things around the house, like that's a very important job. Like I wouldn't know how to do like anything around this house. If something broke, I'd be like, oh, I don't know how to do this.
Exactly. No, and this is the thing. And I think, oh my God, I had a really good point now and I just totally forgot it.
Oh, goddamn, Daniel.
Goddamn.
Your brain be fried.
Oh God, my brain
We be talking about way too much shit.
I know. I think like, oh yeah, one thing I wanted to just comment just again for the listeners is like, again, we're not trying to like discredit any professions or anything else. We're just like looking at it from the angle of what our society as a whole has deemed as being successful in life, right? And it's just interesting that these like really important jobs are deemed less successful. Looked at it differently. And it's also interesting how as a society in certain countries as well, certain really key professions are also really vastly underpaid as well. So
underpaid.
Like the UK, for example, I'll just use this one as an example, like teachers and nurses who I think are super, super important, are paid shockingly in the UK. And the kind of work that they're doing, like especially both, but the nurses, you know, they're working crazy hours and they're getting like barely enough to get by.
Yeah. So, and can I make a point? I also think that a lot of these jobs that are underpaid are jobs that are held primarily by women. And I think that's like fucked up. So people always talk about the wage gap or whatever. And I think it's a complicated topic, the wage gap. Some people think that it's not real. Like some people think that it's like, if you put other factors into consideration, then it's not a real gap. So as in, if you and I had the same job, it's not necessarily that I would get paid less or something like that. Although I think that's also like disputed. But I do think that one way that we have a wage gap is that, jobs, for example, that women are more inclined to do, like nurses, caregivers, teachers, all extremely important jobs, but are deemed not that important and are kind of not paid well. So it's like, of course, it's not always the case. There are male jobs like janitors, for example, like not those aren't really male jobs, but it's probably more males that are janitors and that they don't get paid as much as well. But I do feel like a lot of jobs that women tend to have are paid less, and why? For what reason? How important are teachers? Like so fucking important.
It's also when you look into companies, though, typically roles that are more often held by women, for example, HR and all that kind of stuff. They're also underpaid departments of companies as well, generally, when you compare to like the finance department or another department that's usually more better compensated, I guess. It's an interesting one. Like salaries and wages, it is so complex. The whole, you know, how much people get paid. And then there's that whole argument about, you know, should companies be more transparent about what they're paying employees?
Right.
And there's a whole argument for and against that, which I think we should get into again in another podcast.
Oh, God,
there's so many things coming up.
We be fixing society in this podcast.
We're just getting to the crux of it.